Tak já teďko pozvu na pódium Kristin Parpel, která bude mluvit na téma psychická pohoda. Ne? Investing in yourself. A budeš mluvit anglicky?
No, hele, teďka, my máme docela málo skupina tady. Já jsem schopná dodat v češtině nebo v angličtině. Já jsem řekla, že možná by bylo ještě v angličtině, že byste bych trošku zbudili, ale pro mě je to jedno. Takže udáme...
Mluv anglicky.
Kdo by chtěl anglicky? A kdo by chtěl česky? No dobře, vy jste mě zachránili, dobře, dobrý, super.
Tak, Kristin Parpel, mentorka, konzultantka, ale osobního rozvoje a rozvoje žen, ale jedna věc mě zaujala. Ano. Ty mentoruješ od začátku války na Ukrajině. Ženy z Ukrajiny, aby se mohly uplatnit.
Najít svoje, že bych jako nepustili svoje profesionální jako práce, abych opravdu dal dobrý práci v té země, kde jsou. Hele, je to tak práce, která mě je úplně dojemně.
No, je to ta investice vlastní energie.
Super, super.
Kristin, it's yours.
Já tady potřebuji tohle a možná, abych nemluvila dlouho, tady bych startovala nová tu číslo, protože často když... Oh, sorry, we're speaking English. So very often when I get talking, I just keep going. So hi everybody, I'm Kristin. Thank you very much for the invitation. Amazing work you do. So today, after, I'm going to buy some art, and I'm going to buy a pair of menstrualny kalhoty, because I probably will only need them for a few more years, so I better get them now. Anyway, it's really nice to be here with you. I want you guys to work with me. I don't generally like to speak to people. I work as an executive coach, so I try to help people in their thinking. And I'm going to explain to you a little bit what coaching is about, but I want you really to think about how you can invest in yourself. We had some ideas today, and I was taking notes in the morning so that I could bring those ideas back up. But there's a lot that can change if we really invest in ourselves. And I want you to engage in the topic, because for me, success here right now will be when I finish in 10 or 15 minutes, you leave with one idea for something that could change your life or how you might invest in yourself. Okay, clicker isn't working. Can someone help me? Okay, super. So let's talk about the idea of regrets. How many of you have regrets in your life? Yeah, something a lot of us have. The thing about regrets, they're in the past. It's something that's already happened. So it's pretty much a waste of time and a waste of energy. But we all have them, and we all work with them. Sorry, can you help me with the clicker? Otherwise, I can just sort of make it go on my own. Oh, it's the bottom one, isn't it? Okay, it's got it. So I want to start with this simple concept about investing in yourself. And I want you to think about what are the topics that you think about when you... Sorry, I do need help. It's not working, but I have it on paper. Okay, so I want you to think about what these regrets, and I want you to put them behind you and think about what we can do. And I was doing some research. So I tend to work with executives, business executives, on having them... Oh, I was on the other ones. Okay, great, thanks. So I tend to work with them on improving something. People often think that business executives come because they have a problem and there's something wrong with them, or people go to see a therapist because there's a problem. It's often not like that. It's because people want to be better. So I often do a lot of research, because most of the people I work with are not in HR. They're not reading these articles about psychology and being the best you can be. And I came across this book from Bruni War called The 5 Regrets of Dying. Has anybody heard of that book? I came across it when I was going through a blog in Forbes. And I was expecting that business people, CEOs would say, you know, I didn't make enough money, I wasn't successful enough, I was never the boss, I never had my own company. But sadly enough, this woman, Bruni, she worked with dying people for about 8 years in palliative care. And while she was working with them, she had a lot of conversations, what their life was like, what the end of their life was like. And what she found was people didn't talk about how much money they made. And people seemed to have the same regrets, regardless of where they were from, if they were male or female, if they were rich or poor. and whatever religion they had. And I'm going to share them with you now, and I want you to think about them. It doesn't mean we're all going to have the same ones, but see if any resonate with you. The first one, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. And I'm going to come back to this because I had this exact topic with one of my clients. I'm going to share one of her paths getting away from this. Another one, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. I'm sure a lot of us in this room are guilty of it. Third one, I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings. How many of us really tell people what we think and how we feel? Well done. Good. 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 And thank you for jumping in. It makes it much easier for me here. Fourth one, I wish I had stayed in touch with friends. This is a hard one. There's a lot of people we love in our lives, and we get very busy. Friends, family, and we're not in touch with them. And the last one, I wish I had let myself be happier. These are the 5 regrets that Brownie found when she spoke to people on their deathbed. This has nothing to do with money, and this has nothing to do with investing money. Sorry, Jan. I still think you should invest money, wooden company. But this is really about investing in yourself and how you spend your time. And it seems so easy, right? So the thing is, when we have these regrets, good thing is we have control of them. So I work, like I said, as a coach. I can't make miracles happen. If someone comes to me and says, I want to be a model, but I'm 5'5" and 80 kilos, I might not be able to do that. I maybe can't get someone to the moon, but there are things we have control of. And if we have regrets, our life is not over. We are not on our deathbed. And we can make those things happen. So you have to think about, are you going to put the time in? And I heard a lot of interesting things today, but I want to go a little bit deeper than that. Just think about if you were going to invest in a company. So I might invest in your company, let's say. Jan already suggested that I do that while I was sitting next to him. But would you invest in a company without doing due diligence? Would you invest in a company which didn't have concrete goals, which didn't have a vision? But if we think about our life, how we invest in our life, we're on that hamster wheel, running from one thing to the next thing to the next thing, and not putting a lot of thought into it. And I have my daughter here, who's probably looking at me saying, Mom, can't believe you're saying this because you do it yourself. I go from one thing to the next, and I'm guilty of it. But unfortunately, I wasn't going to share this with you today, but I feel like I should because it's a small, nice, comfortable group here. But I just lost a couple friends, and I have a father-in-law who's in the hospital. And that stops you in your tracks and go, shit, I should have called him when he called me. I should have called him back when he called me in August. I should have spent more time. I should have done this, should have done that. So what I'm talking about when I talk about investing in yourself is really deep, deep thinking. So before I get into how we do this, I promised Misha that I'd keep it a little bit business-like. But one of the most successful investors and philanthropists of the 20th century, Warren Buffett. If you have read any of his work, if you've watched any of his videos, the one thing he says is investing in yourself is the best thing you can do. And he gives examples. He said, never stop acquiring knowledge. Go to bed a little smarter every day. Develop your communication skills, because if you have great knowledge and you're not able to share that with someone, and you're not able to sell it to someone, it's not valuable for anyone else. Invest in improving your business relations. God, I wish somebody had told me this when I ran a company 25 years ago. I didn't have time for dinners. I didn't have time for parties. I didn't have time for lunches because I was working. But now, many years later, that I know that when I have a trusted relationship, that's what's going to get me the work, and that's what's going to get people to want to work with me. Misha didn't check what my content was. She said, can you speak? And I said, sure, thank you. She didn't check me. She trusted it because we invested in that relationship. Surround yourself with people you can learn from. Another thing that Warren Buffett said, which made me think a little bit is you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So think about that. You're laughing, right? Who are we spending our time with? Are they people not only who we work with in business, but are they people who share the same values? Are they people we want to be connected with? And that's something we should really put our thought into. So this sounds all like soft stuff, and I really hate it when people are like, oh, you're a soft skills trainer, and no, I'm not. The work I do is helping people to be change makers of their own life. So let's talk about how it actually works in reality. When someone comes into me and says, oh yeah, I'm here, my HR director asked me to come see you because my 360 is really bad and I don't have a good temperament. Okay, so why do you want to change it? What's the point of changing it? What would change for you? So the first thing in being a change maker for yourself, investing in yourself, is deciding what it is you want to change. Think about what makes you happy, what gives you energy, what sucks your energy. This morning when I was getting my makeup done, I was chatting with the makeup artist, and she said, oh, I'm getting so much energy from you, and I believe in angels. And we had this great conversation. And I believe in angels too, so that was good. But it was really interesting. She said, you know, sometimes when I'm putting someone's makeup on, like, they suck my energy. Be careful of that. Choose who you spend your time with. We don't need to spend our time with toxic people. It is a choice. Think about what makes you happy. Now, I'm going to share this. I don't think anyone's been at my workshops, but I always ask this question in my workshops when I'm working with leadership teams. I worked with Vodafone like 10 years ago, and we had this project called Fermaroko, and it was like, 10 round tables at these events in the evening, and I was supposed to talk about burnout, so I had prepared sort of a little speech about burnout, and then like first round, I realized it was really boring, so I'm like, I better come up with something else, and so I had these business leaders, business owners, do a little viskum. Yeah, research. Thank you. You're awake. Okay. They did a little research. And I just asked them this question, and I'm going to ask you this. Think about what you love to do and what you're really good at and how often you do it. And now we can just think from a work point of view or in your life, either way. And then think about those things that you don't love to do, but you have to do them. And how often do you do them? Now, I want you to raise your hand to tell me how often, on a daily basis, I'm talking about work now, but you can put it into your life if you're not working at the moment. And I want you to think about how often you do that thing that you're good at and it gives you energy and you love it. So just raise your hand. 10% of your time, 20% of your time, 30% of your time, 40% of your time, 50% of your time, 60% of your time, 70, 80, 90, 100. Okay, I'm not sure if everyone understood the question because some people didn't put their hands up at all, but okay. The point of the question is, if you can move that percentage up a little bit, life will be better. And then the reality of that is, when I did this, it was about 500 business people, business owners. Tomasz, that was to you. Hi. It was about 30% of their time was spent doing what they love and what they're good at. These were business owners. So if you were just to think about, how can I invest in myself? And you just ask yourself that simple question. You try to move that percentage up. That's a simple first step you can take. Because often we talk about, everyone has their process. Some people get a coach, great idea, by the way. You can get a mentor. People go on retreats. They find journals. They do vision boards. These are all good things. But you have to think about, we talked about it this morning. How do I invest in myself? I get a massage. I go to yoga, I get a mani-pedi, I go for a walk with my friend's dog, I don't know, whatever we do to make ourselves feel better. But that's short term. These aren't the big questions. Sometimes it's hard to find the answers to these big questions because we have to have some silence. And this morning, Teresa talked about having 10 minutes of silence. And silence can be really scary because sometimes we don't like what we hear. And when people come to me in a very confidential space and decide to share what's really bothering them, they're sometimes surprised and scared at what they find out and what they discover. So I want you to think about how you can do it. Is it finding a friend, a coach, a mentor? Is it about doing a vision board? But ask that question. I can share with you probably the most difficult question I had in my life. It was in 2001. I was in New York City. I had a really great job, global director of CG marketing, traveling all over the world. And my husband thought it would be a great time for us to get married. And I thought, oh shit, okay, so you moved to New York. And he said, I can't move to New York, I have a company here. Long story short, I had to ask myself that question that I had been avoiding, which is, what do I want more in my life? Do I want that big global career, making a lot of money, traveling all over the world, which, by the way, I had been working for over 10 years, really hard? Or do I want to be sure that I'm going to have a family? And that was a very hard question because I had to give something up. And I had to imagine myself, not at that moment, because in that moment I was definitely keeping my job. I had to imagine myself 10 years later, would I have regrets? And that's for a much longer discussion, but at the time I didn't have female role models who had it all, so I didn't think it was possible. So asking yourself those very difficult questions is what can move us forward. But very often, you need someone to help you on the way. I recently had a new client come to me. He's in the banking industry, extremely successful, extremely good looking. I'm not going to give his name, so it's okay. And said, you know, I need to work with you. And I said, what's the problem? He said, there's no problem. I got a great job. I'm making a lot of money. I constantly have new offers. But he comes in when there's time to reorganization in banks and financial institutions. And he said, I'm just always the bad guy. I'm successful at what I do, but I'm always the bad guy. And I don't want to be the bad guy anymore. I want to do something which is going to bring joy to people. So he knew, he had the insight to say, something isn't right in my gut. And I need to change that. And it's not going to happen in 3 months or 6 months. It's going to be a journey. But he will continue to be in those roles as long as he is successful. It's a good title. It's a big ego. It's a lot of money. But he just knows inside it's not right. So I want you to think about when you leave here today, with all the different people you've heard speaking about all the different things, is there something that you can do to invest in yourself? And if there's something that you actually really want, how are you going to get there? And I like to give you guys examples so you can understand how this works. I had another client come to me several years ago, Czech woman who was working in New York City at the time. And she wanted to do some coaching with me because she got a job offer in Dubai. She didn't know if she should go or if she should stay. So I said, okay, let's try this. You're in New York. She was data security, so we couldn't do Skype at the time. That was before the pandemic. So we were on the phone. I'm like, I really don't know if this is going to work. I can't even see you. Let's try it. Within 45 minutes, what came out of this woman changed her life. She was about 32 at the time. And we were talking about her job and the money and what it would look like. And I said, so what makes you happy? She said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, what makes you happy? She said, oh, I like to make people laugh. And I said, well, you're a lawyer. That's interesting. How do lawyers make people laugh? She said, well, you know, I go on Saturdays, and I learned how to do stand-up comedy. I said, oh, that's really cool. And then all of a sudden, she has this nervous laughter, and she says, I don't want to be a lawyer anymore. I said, okay, what do you want to do? I want to be a comedian, and I want to write films, and okay. And that was the start of our 2 years of work together. Because something inside of her was telling her that she couldn't do it. And what did I say? The first regret we have? Living the life that we think other people want us to have. And I said, why didn't you ever talk about this before? Well, I went through law school, and my mother would think I'm a loser, and my boyfriend would be upset because I'm making them. All these reasons why. Living the life someone else wanted her to be, and not the life she wanted to be. So these simple questions of, what do you do that makes you happy? Where do you get energy? Who gives you energy? What people do you like to be around? What makes you happy? These are very simple questions, but we don't give ourselves enough silence to listen to ourselves. And I'm guilty of it as well. So if you can leave here with one idea of something you could do for yourself, which will make you happier or healthier or more full of energy, or a dream that you have, think about who maybe you can discuss it with, put it on a vision board, write it down, and try to take the first step to make it happen. So I have 1.5 minutes left. I tried to share some thoughts on how the process works, but I also wanted to show you some examples of how it really works in real life. Have any of you, while we're sitting here, has anything come to your mind about what you could do to invest in yourself? And I'm not talking about a massage or a mani-pedi. I'm talking about something deeper. Has anybody had a new idea? And I'm not going to make you share it. Oh, God, I really messed up here, guys. We got like 3 people going, Tomasz, yes, okay, Tomasz, thank you. Okay, it's a process. And I just want to share that with you that if anything else, if I put in a seed that makes you think about that when it comes to our end of our life, it's too late. So don't be afraid to go out of that comfort zone. Don't be afraid to admit what you might want to work on. And don't be afraid to ask for help on the journey. So enjoy the day.